2, 1. Welcome on in, listeners. This is the very first debut episode of On Beat Off Script. My name is Brandito, and I'm here with Mel, which are going to be your recurring hosts, as well as a fantastic guest, our good friend Incredibob. And basically, the whole concept of this is we are a new music podcast. We want to talk about new music as it's coming out as soon as possible, so you guys know what to listen to, where to find it, and let you know what kind of our thoughts are on it. Yeah.
That's exactly why we're here.
And this brings us into the wonderful Mac Miller, his second posthumous album, which is honestly just incredibly. It's impressive to know that he had a back catalog that wasn't out there for so long that he could come up with two full posthumous albums. That's crazy, because also his time on the planet was shorter than most artists who still can't seem to find a way to have enough back catalog to have posthumous albums released. You know what I mean? We'll actually kind of dive into this one, I think, a little bit more, a lot deeper, just knowing how important this album probably was in front of everybody, as a whole. I've got notes on every single track on this one. Knowing, just obviously with it being Mac Miller, I grew up with Mac Miller. Like, he released his debut when I was in grade 8. You know what I mean? Like, so like listening to Kids and Blue Slides and stuff like that. Like that was what I was listening to then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What were you saying about?
I was gonna say, no, I mean, same. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
This was a very emotional listen for me.
Yeah. Well, I, on the other hand, didn't grow up with Mac Miller at all. So this is, I of course know who Mac Miller is. I've heard some of his earlier stuff, of course, pre death and post, but
pre-humus. I don't know if that's a word, but
yeah, that's why I said death. But yeah, it's so this is a bit. Mac Miller, I guess, is a bit after my time, I guess, so to speak. But
that's understandable. Obviously, he is a little bit newer age.
For you guys. Yeah,
it's one of those things. So a couple of things that are really important to mention about the album. So again, it was recorded in 2013, 2014. So kind of when he was he was an individual who struggled with a lot of mental health issues, a lot of addiction issues, and stuff like that. And this was kind of in the heat of all of that stuff when he wrote this. He also wrote Circles around this same time, which was the last posthumous album that he released as well. It was when the estate had actually released the tracks for this. They said he implicitly said that this was a really, really important project for me and it needs to get out there at some point. What's really, really neat about this, so there's really only 2 features on it, which for a hip hop album nowadays is nothing. Which is SZA, who has obviously had just a tremendous blow up over the last 4 years. Really, Mac Miller passed away in 2018, never got to see it. And SZA had actually wrote out about the album dropping, saying thank you to Mac Miller, a kind of a huge thank you to him, saying like, you recognized something in me before everybody else did. And you look at her, she wrote one of the albums of 2023, if not the album of 2023. She has been all over the place. And so he recognized that of her, and she's recognizing him by being a part of not quite the opening track, but the opening track was mostly just an instrumental.
Tambourine.
Being a big part. Yeah, exactly. Right. Which that one, I don't necessarily think we're going to talk about, but there's nothing to talk about there.
Somebody hit a tambourine.
It was there almost was no Mac Miller on the track, really, other than kind of some muffled noises from him. But SZA stepped in and I think recorded it afterwards to add to the track as like an appreciation. The other big one too is Mac Miller was really close with another artist named Thundercat. I'm not sure if you know who Thundercat is. really, really cool, very like jazz bassist. Has worked with a ton of hip hop artists all over the place. Thundercat is a really, really great musician. But Thundercat, and because Mac Miller's stylings have always kind of been rooted in jazz, Thundercat has worked with Mac Miller since the beginning of his career almost. And like Thundercat went out, and he's probably on about 70% of these songs as either a songwriter or a producer. He was very, very open about like, I want to make sure that his project, this legacy project that he wanted to make sure got out there, ended up out there. So you'll see a lot of that jazz influence throughout the whole album, which is really, really cool. But Thundercat had gone on record and said, like, I lost my best friend when I lost Mac. So this was a really, really passionate project for him too, to work on with the estate, to say, hey, like, he wanted this to go out. I want to make sure that it goes out and it's the quality that he would expect it to be. And when it came to the industry, nobody would know that better than Thundercat. And I think he really, really took the opportunity to do that for them, which was really cool. But outside of that, the album's really heavy. There's a couple notes, couple lines, couple bars that, listening to it now, like, made my hair stand on end, because I'm like, whoa, that is interesting. If you guys have anything to add about the album as a whole before we dive into the tracks, how did it feel?
Man, what do you think, man?
I mean, yeah, it was heavy. I felt like it was like, yeah, just another deep dive into like into his inner thoughts. We really got like a firsthand look at his, like, the demons he was fighting. Yeah, I don't know. It was a hard listen. I don't see me being able. This one felt different than Circles for me.
Sure.
Circles, there's a lot of tracks on there that I still listen to, like, on a regular basis. Don't know if I could actually emotionally, like, handle re-listening to a lot of this, but I still enjoyed it.
There's some super heavy content, man.
Yeah.
Like on Do You Have a Destination? Like, hearing him just like say the line, like, I already killed myself.
Yeah.
Was one of those whoa. And to know that now this is coming out posthumously, it was insane. It took my breath away when I had heard it. It's just, it's one of those, you don't know what's really going through somebody's head when you're hearing the albums that he was producing in 2014, 2015, that kind of era of Mac Miller. And then when things changed in 2018, obviously, for the worst, he had this already on the backtrack, and it almost feels like an intention to release at some point. Either once he overcame his demons, or in this case, tragically, he didn't. And it's just one of those ones that really, really stands out to me. Outside of some of that heaviness, though, musically, I thought the album was still really, really solid. The jazz tracks that Thundercat worked on and put together, I think were right up Mac Miller's alley. They maybe weren't quite as funky as a lot of previous Mac Miller tracks. When you think about like the work that he did with Anderson .Paak, that kind of vibe, he usually had a little bit more of a hop to the step, whereas this just really kind of felt like some freeform jazz that he was rapping over top of. Going through like a couple of the other tracks and stuff like that, $5 Pony Rides, I thought it was just an awesome, really awesome jazz composition. That's like just did a really, really good job of just kind of like showing like what he took into influence while he was alive and putting together these albums and stuff like that.
That's one of the few songs that I actually think I could listen to on replay. Like, that one has replayability for me, where the other ones, I don't think I could.
Without the huge emotional cut. Because there were tracks on here that weren't, I guess it's important to mention, like, there were tracks on this album that weren't crazy heavy, that didn't have this huge emotional burden that came with listening to them. Friendly Hallucinations, I really actually enjoyed. I know that it is really heavy based on, the actual subject matter, but I thought the other thing too is like, he's saying things like he's a slave to the bass line while also like having a dope bass line rolling in the background, and it just feels super fun and really exciting to bring to like forward the presence, which I do have a clip of here. I'm just getting it queued up.
Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the highlights of the album for me, is this song, honestly.
Friendly Hallucinations. I did agree, and I get the content matter being about obviously his drug use and everything like that for that period of time makes it a little bit troubling. But I found there was some bright spots throughout the album that were not necessarily so heavy. I shouldn't say bright spots as in I liked them more than other parts. I did enjoy the album kind of all the way through, but
these weren't as heavy. Yeah.
It was a little bit of a reprieve from some of the other content matter, again, knowing who he is and what the state of everything is now, right?
Yeah.
In the grapevine, still wide awake, I'm a stranger to the daytime. Vampire,
let it read a little.
Hang glider. Look around and all I see is
like
gray skies.
That bass line that like pushes through the whole track, which felt a lot more similar to Mac Miller's previous work. Yeah. Right, it felt like that kind of groove, that consistent groove that's going to roll throughout the whole track, where other ones just definitely did not. And I think that has something to do with the posthumous part of the production. I think a couple people might have taken a little bit of liberty or of course, you have different artists.
Yeah,
drive it in.
100%.
I'm going to be a little objective here and say I feel like this is where the album actually starts. Like, I don't like a lot of the first few tracks before this one.
Interesting.
I really think after this the album really shines. If you take lyrics out, take the posthumous thing out, just be objective about the music. I feel like this is the start of the really good music in the album.
I loved SZA's feature, though. I mean, I know
I hated it. To be honest, I didn't like it very much, but go on. I'm sorry.
I just thought it was such like. I mean, I just thought it was such an interesting way to start it, and I did. I just also really like SZA though, but I see what you're saying though.
For me, that track felt like. Yes, SZA, like he would have wanted you to be on the album in some way, shape, or form. So yes, come on. I don't even know. There's a good chance that it could have been recorded. That like her part was recorded posthumous, and they just asked SZA to do it because he had a lot of respect for SZA, and that vice versa. So I think it was. I think that was one of his wishes, as opposed, and that might have been done after the fact. Means that sonically, it seems like it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But
it is out of place in comparison to everything else, which is why I think they just threw it in the beginning, because it wouldn't make sense anywhere. But
it allowed him to kind of see his wishes fulfilled of having SZA on a track or on that album, and vice versa, her being able to be like, I got a chance to go say thank you by being on this project of his. Right?
I can only imagine the closure some of these people got by working on this. Like, it must have been hard to do, but I can imagine it being very cathartic in the end.
For sure.
What did you guys think of the first track, the Tambourine Dream? That was like 35 seconds or whatever. What did you think of it?
I don't think it needed to be there, but it was fine.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought. I thought, why the fuck is this here? Yeah. I don't know if it was just them playing the tambourine or what, but go on.
I don't mind it with context to the end. So, Mel, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
I was going to say, I felt the entire album had a very experimental vibe to me. Like, felt like it was like a lot of like jam sessions kind of just like woven together. So in that sense, it made sense for it to be there, but I also don't think it needed to be there. Like, it was just kind of like warming us up to it.
When I heard it, it sounded like a bookend to me. Like, because the way that the blast track ends up is that it's a 12-minute long track just about. But the very end of that is just that prolonged instrumental outro where it just eventually bleeds out to just the phone ringing and nobody answering, which I think was kind of trying to show, like, at the very beginning. And if you're thinking about it as a way that he's progressing through life, at the very beginning, kind of a very childlike, a tambourine isn't a difficult instrument to play. It's it's You know what I mean? Like, I think it was kind of this look at, like, at the very beginning, it was kind of just supposed to be for fun anyways. And by the time he goes through this whole progression, going through things like Deborah Downer, going through Stone, going through Shangri-La, even going through Rick's Piano, where he talks about kind of a light amount of recovery he had in between everything.
Rick's Piano was the hardest listen for me. That was a huge highlight, but hearing him sing about the best is yet to come, I literally was just like, this is so hard to get through.
Sure. Well, I'm a huge Rick Rubin fan. So knowing, like, and actually hearing him talk about how Rick actually helped his recovery. But again, when you think about the sequence of how all of these things work out, at the very end, the phone ringing and nobody answering, right? It kind of assumes it's Max. And he's not there to answer the call anymore, which I think is incredibly thought-provoking. I think it really was designed to be a bookend of how he started his career and how he ended it.
That's really actually genius.
It very easily could be on that side. Now, I might
not
just be
trying to like put you on a
pedestal,
but like that with that explanation, like, okay, genius if that's the intention. Yeah. And I can't believe you picked up on it because I never would have.
That's like it really seemed like it was coming from a certain creative side. Because again, there's never been an album where Mac Miller's just had a random instrumental sitting there for something. So there was a reason behind it. And knowing what he did with things like Circles and stuff like that, where that album was poised just to be a full album. Somehow unexpectedly, you know what I mean? And he recorded that around the same time as all of this stuff too. He had an artistic take that was always going to be something that he wanted influenced in all of it, right?
Yeah.
Moving down the track listing just a little bit, Deborah Downer I thought was tough. That one was for me, I think, kind of personally one of the toughest listens because it was very specifically like talking about like on the nose, like his depression and his drug use. Like that was him like saying like, this is where I'm at my like worst. You know what I mean? Tracks like Stone, I mean, he's always kind of used marijuana use and stuff like that. You know, all of his tracks and stuff like that. That was just, it was really heavy drums, a really nice jazz backing, which I really, really liked. Shangri-La, I thought was really interesting because it kind of showed the other side of his drug use and like how he felt where he was. I mean, Shangri-La, two things. Shangri-La is the name of Rick Rubin's studio.
I didn't know that.
Yes, it's actually the Shangri-La studio. That's also where, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it is where the Beatles had recorded and stuff like that, a couple of their albums, if I'm not mistaken. So it was kind of that him recognizing that he was chasing Shangri-La, obviously also being kind of like a utopian ideology, right? Was him recognizing that he is either going to go to Shangri-La through drug use or go to Shangri-La where he actually like went to go find some help with Rick Rubin.
Okay.
Right?
Got it. Okay.
Could have been kind of both ways, but either way he was going to Shangri-La. So he was just like, I had to make a decision at some point. Am I going to just keep doing the drugs or am I going to go to Shangri-La using narcotics, or am I going to go to Shangri-La and go get help with Rick? Which really sets up what Rick's Piano turns into, like further down.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't know that connection. That's cool.
Yeah.
There's a ton of connections, and that's what's I've really like found a couple of these connections throughout this, and it's really neat on that sense of things. Excelsior, I actually didn't want to play a clip because I thought Excelsior
I actually really enjoyed Excelsior, and then Transformations was a really nice break for me. Was like a highlight of the album for me right there.
For sure. I kind of felt like, you know what? Actually, I shouldn't say that. I do think that for me, Rick's Piano, there's a couple of different spots. Friendly Hallucinations and Deborah Downer, I think, were like those key parts where it looked like he kind of turned the switch of like how he was feeling. These ones kind of actually got lost to me because Rick's Piano happened shortly after. And once I heard Rick's Piano, I was like, I can't. That is the track.
I like so needed that break though in order to get to Rick's piano. So I so appreciated it.
Completely get it. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the one with the big harp presence on Excelsior here that I really, really enjoyed. Maybe not harp, pardon me. It's those backing strings that are in there on the break beat, the super broken beat there, that I really, really enjoyed, because it also sounded a lot more reminiscent of his older stuff, where he would have kind of sometimes these really plucky strings involved, and then it would come out. Yeah, so Excelsior, I didn't mind. It was a good one in my mind, and I thought, again, with that really broken jazz beat kind of going with it, I thought worked out like decently.
Yeah.
But you said that a highlight for you was the track following that.
Well, I really, really appreciated Transformations, because there was like a playfulness about it, and then like the helium distortion, it like kind of tied the balloonerism in for me. And just like I didn't realize how much I was going to appreciate that track until I got to Rick's piano, and Tomorrow We'll Never Know, because like, that just got so heavy where it was like, okay, that lightheartedness was so needed.
Well, Transformations technically wasn't supposed to be Mac Miller, really. That was always done as Delusional Thomas, which was this character that he wanted to bring to life, never really had the chance to, who was delusional. And he said, like, this was like kind of part of when I was going through my artistic process, these were the things that I was thinking about. And I wanted Delusional Thomas to be the one that told that story, because they were such different ideas than what I had.
It doesn't sound, it didn't make sense, but I also loved it, if that makes sense. Yeah, it stood out a lot for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Mannequins was the one with the filtered harps that I was thinking of. But I really like that. But so, like, if you notice on Mannequins, what they'll do is they were playing the harps, and the harp started off kind of as very conventional harp playing, but then they continue to add filter and filter it down over and over again, which I think he kind of meant to try to embody kind of his coming down from high, right? Whenever it was the idea of, again, hitting
you're
that
in
Shangri-La,
that bliss, and
it's slowly deteriorating until he finally then went to introduction to next song, Rick's piano, where he actually went to go get clean for it, which obviously inevitably didn't quite work, which then brings you to Tomorrow We'll Never Know. Tomorrow We'll Never Know, kind of the sobriety that he did get to experience briefly, and all of these other thoughts that he kind of had going on in his head again. And that becomes that 12-minute long, super introspective to the lead out, the close out, the soprano style black screen with the phone ringing type mentality.
They were mean to make us sit in that for that long, but I understood also why they did it.
For sure. Because and I think the idea, the point of having a track that long at 12 minutes, it makes you really, really feel like you felt, and especially knowing that you had, Thundercat, who was very close friends, doing a lot of the production and working on a lot of this album from his end. And also Mac Miller did do also most of the production on this stuff. It has been kind of sitting in a crate. It's just kind of the post-production stuff that Thundercat really involved himself on. Mac was saying, I'm not just going to go away. It's going to be a really, really slow into nothing kind of existence in his brain, I think was kind of the point he was trying to make with it. So that final phone ringing, it takes forever for those instrumentals to slowly drain out and disappear until it came to just the phone ringing and nobody answering. And I think that was just really immaculately put together. I think it was important for this album to eventually come out. I think it gave us a lot more scope of what was going on with them. Is it my favorite production from him? No. Is it the toughest one though? For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely elevated by it being posthumous and being a look into what was going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
100%. So, in conclusion, for me, I enjoyed the album. I think it's heavy. I think it's tough. I don't think it's musically his best work. I think if he intended the things that I think that he intended with them, it might be part of his most creative work, from an art style. He had even commissioned somebody to do the album cover, specifically on this one. Like, he reached out to people to do the album cover on it, so he did kind of want this to maybe be his coup de grace, you know. But yeah, for me, again, musically, is it the most impressive? Is it the one I want to keep coming back to? No, it isn't. I like upbeat Mac. I liked happy Mac. You know, that's from a nostalgia factor for me. That's what I listened to when I was still in high school, you know? But from an importance standpoint, I think it was a huge importance to him to make sure that this album did come out.
I think this is closure for a lot of people too. All the listeners, all the, you know, fans. I think this is important for them just as much as it is for the family, you know, and the estate and everyone else that made this thing come out.
It feels like a goodbye.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
Yeah.
100% it is. Yeah. It's
like Circles didn't feel like a goodbye necessarily, because there were still some bangers off of it. You know what I mean?
Circles a lot.
Circles was really, really good. But they also they were standalone singles. You know what I mean? Like, they were. Yeah. Whereas this felt like, hey, I'm not here anymore, guys. Like, this is one last thing for you guys, but like, I'm gone. I'm gonna go for good now.
Yeah.
One of the other things, actually, we skipped this track entirely. Funny Papers, which I actually like really, really enjoyed too, because it was telling the story about how, like, relating himself to being a person in a comic book, essentially. But one of the things that he actually said, a guy died in the Funny Papers the other day. I didn't think anybody died on a Friday, was specifically the line. September 7th, 2018.
Shut up.
Miller's passing day was, in fact, a Friday.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Right?
Yeah, it was specifically a Friday. Like, as soon as I heard it, I had to stop and look that up, because I'm like, is there a chance that...
Oh, my God.
It makes you wonder just how much he was actually thinking about this stuff. How much is it chance? You know, it was a 1 in 7 chance at the end of the day, but it shows that there might have been a little bit more thought put into that than everything else. You know what I mean? Which is, again, unfortunately tragic, and hard to stomach. But just the not so blissful irony of that statement just works so well there. And it just makes for a lot more introspection and a lot more stuff to think about. So but Mel, how'd you feel if you were to put a number on this puppy? Balloonerism, Mr. Mac Miller.
I still feel like it deserves respect. But yeah, it's not my favorite. And I would probably put it at like a 7.5.
Yeah.
But
that's pretty understandable.
Yeah, like there are very few songs that I'm going to go back and re-listen to, because it's just, it was too heavy for like daily listens.
For sure. For sure. It's a lot to digest, all, like, no matter what, really. It does. There's no time of year that makes it easier to digest, right?
Like, I could see myself on like a really bad day, if I need to cry, just coming home, getting stoned as fuck and listening to it just to get some emotions out. But like, other than that, I don't see me revisiting it.
For sure.
So 7.5.
Yeah. Yeah, how do you rate something like this?
I know, it's hard.
As you started out with, I want to respect it, because there's a lot here. This is something that should be respected. This is a piece of history in a way, you know, for this man's career and for everything this man stood for, you know. But at the same time, you gotta be objective. This is a podcast, a music podcast. You gotta be objective in a way, and I told you guys already, I feel like the album didn't really start for me until Friendly Hallucinations from a musical standpoint. I thought the back half of the album is much better than the front half. In general, I really didn't like the first couple of tracks, first 2 or 3 tracks I didn't like a lot. It's... I think we got good closure out of this. I think that the story it tells and some of the things you brought up, Brandito, really elevate it in my mind. Connections I didn't make. Again, listening to this for the first time this morning.
Not everybody's going to know that. Not everybody's going to know that super producer Rick Rubin, his studio is a place called Shangri-La, and he has a song about Shangri-La. Yeah. Earlier on in this, and then talks about playing on his piano later.
Turns out you're uniquely
equipped.
Everybody's
going to know that part.
You're uniquely equipped for a podcast of this nature. That being said, in general, it's not an enjoyable listen, but it is it's a listen that will give emotions. You will evoke emotions, and I think invoke emotions. And I think that's a good thing. And if you're talking artistically, it's a good thing to invoke emotions. So 7.5 out of 10, I think I'm giving this album.
Yeah. So you guys are both 7.5s there.
Yeah, I think so. Were you 7.5, Mel? I forget.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, and honestly, I'll be completely upfront with you guys. I just put the Shangri-La connection to Rick Rubin right now as well that. When I was talking to you guys about it. I did not put that together until I started reading it off.
I understood the Rick's piano connection, but I never would have.
So for me, I had originally had written down a 7.4. I think it is something that I'm going to play again and re-listen to, because it could be something that does. I feel like I'm going to re-listen to all of these things and find another thing that he's going to do. Because I literally just did that while we've been recording this. You know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for something like that, where I'm realizing, there is going to be stuff that I missed. There's going to be stuff that we all missed. And there's going to be some stuff that we'll never actually find, because the only guy that really knows what the intentions were or how some of that wordplay was meant to be is Mac himself. I'm gonna sit on my 7.4 for now. Again, understanding that but the 7.4 is taking everything into consideration. I think its importance level is more than a 7.4 for anybody who's a fan of hip hop, anybody who's a fan of Mac Miller, obviously, and just people who are a fan of music to sit down and actually listen to it and find ways to deconstruct it and take your emotions away from it. I think it's an important album on that side, more so than it is something that I want to listen to over and over again. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not blasting this in your car, unless you want to depress everyone around you.
Which, I mean, there are people out there, I'm sure, that are like that, or just huge Mac Miller fans, which is also completely fair. Sure. It's the last piece of art that we're probably going to get from him.
Yeah.
Right. True. So appreciate it and blast it in your cars. That's understandable. We're not going to get other Mac Millers, so enjoy it. True. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's what he would have appreciated and respected. So
there you go.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, we're
all on the same page with that one. That was weird.
Yeah, we really we're all the way there on that one. I'm still shocked about Kaylee. I have no clue.
I loved it.
Blown away by your feelings on it. I
can't wait to re-listen.
Wild to me. It is wild to me.
That's why I was differing viewpoints.
Yeah, no doubt. Cool. But so this was the first episode of On Beat Off Script. So hopefully it ended up going great. There's an important part here where, again, we listen to new music and we listen to it as soon as it's about to come out, as soon as it comes out, so that we can try to have things out there for you guys to know. How do I feel about this album? Somebody out there's got to tell you how to feel about it. We're just going to pretend to be those people for right now. So what we do want to do is just let you know. So for the next episode, we do have another 3 albums that we're probably going to spotlight for you guys to listen to. They are all, if I'm not mistaken, January 31st release dates. So on February 1st, we will be going into recording and we will be talking about them. The first one, obviously, we heard a little bit of a sample of today. we heard a little bit of LS Dunes, heard the sample from there, which I'm incredibly excited. Chicago emo punk rock, that if it's like it was today and we can get some of that primal screaming, I'm really, really looking forward to it. Like, I feel like this is going to go in a really, really cool direction, really, really fast.
Anthony Green won't let us down.
No,
I have faith. So
I'm super, super happy for that. The next one, we're going to be going over probably the biggest release that's coming out in 2 weeks from now. The Weeknd is going to be dropping a new album. Good old Canadian content here, super R&B star, with Hurry Up Tomorrow. What I'm most excited about is this is also going to be his first release since doing The Idol, which
embarrassing.
Really good soundtrack reviews only, and was almost ripped to pieces by everything else. So as much as I'm not a crazy big The Weeknd fan, I appreciate him. He's a superstar. And I am looking forward to seeing how he kind of has his bounce back after that. Because it did not show him in a great light. I think a lot of people are really, really curious whether maybe he's just a bad director or is he taking his creative style in just a completely weird direction that a lot of people don't love. We're going to find out and we're going to talk about it. And then last up, we're going to go over Hallucinating Love, which is a album that's coming out by a band named Marabou State, which is a UK electronica band, which I'm really excited about. I really want to kind of dive into a little bit more electronic music myself. But Marabou State's been has worked like with a couple of other people as well. So like you can take a quick peek, take a look through their past discography and stuff like that too. I personally really, really enjoy them. They're, like I said, they're electronica, not electronic music. So they're less about, you know, what you're kind of traditionally thinking of. But it is meant to be kind of a background electronic music album. It's not rave music. It's things that you would have on at a house party while you're doing other things, you know, and the UK has always been one of the pioneers for doing electronic music, that style, very different from the North America market that is very wub, everybody's doing drugs and at raves and doing that kind of style. So I'm super excited to kind of tap into that a little bit. Yeah. Do you guys have any other closing thoughts or values you want to impart?
I'm just glad this podcast went off without a hitch, no technical issues today whatsoever. And, you know, I'm very happy about that. And I'm glad that, Mel, you all right over there? Mel's just sinking into her chair because she's so happy as well that this went off without a hitch. But, yeah, this is a blast. And thank you for having me as a guest. I guess I am kind of a semi-producer in a way as well of this wonderful podcast. I can't.
You're stuck here with us for a bit.
Continue to contribute to this amazing cause.
It'll be awesome. It'll be good. Yeah. It'll be fantastic. Mel, yourself?
Yeah, no, this was cool. I'm really excited that we did this, and I'm really excited to keep going. And yeah, I don't have anything. I know I was going to try to do like a pop culture like update, but nothing has really happened that's super exciting other than Beyonce canceling her announcement because of the LA wildfires. So I'm still waiting to find out what Beyonce's next announcement is.
You're right. It has everything to do with LA wildfires and nothing to do with Jay-Z involved in things. Right. 100%. Regardless, thank you everybody so much for listening. And you will ideally be hearing a new episode coming out, recording on February 1st, releasing on February 2nd.
On beat, off script. Thanks for being here, man.
Off script. Peace out, everybody. 3, 2, 1.